The sun was only beginning to rise when the prophets gathered outside the small compound, the air still cool with dew clinging to the grass. Birds sang in the fig trees, and smoke curled lazily from the huts where early meals were being prepared. Among the group stood their teacher Elisha, a man in his late 50s, his long gray-streaked black hair falling to his shoulders, his beard thick and noble though streaked with age. His beige robe hung loosely around his frame, a brown cloak draped over him, and in his hand he leaned upon his wooden staff. His calm eyes, piercing and deep, carried the weight of wisdom, and when he spoke, even the chatter of birds seemed to hush. "My sons," Elisha said, his voice steady but gentle, "you have asked that we expand our dwelling, for indeed the place we live has become too small. Today, you will go to the Jordan, and each of you cut down a tree. Together you shall raise beams for a new house." A murmur of agreement ran through the young prophets, their faces lighting with purpose. At the front was a tall, strong man, the senior student prophet about 30 years of age, his thick curly brown hair trimmed short, a dark gray tunic tied with a sturdy leather belt. His strong shoulders marked him as the one the others often looked to for leadership. He stepped forward, nodding firmly. "We will begin at once, Master. The river's edge is lined with tall cedars and sycamores. It shall be done." Near him, a slimmer, younger man shifted nervously, the one who had borrowed an axe for this task. He was 22, wiry in frame, barefoot, his patched wool tunic tied with a rope. His shoulder-length black hair was tied back with a strip of cloth, and though his eyes shone with eagerness, there was a flicker of worry in them, as though he always feared making a mistake. He bowed his head respectfully. "My lord, if it pleases you, will you come with us?" His voice trembled with both humility and hope. Elisha smiled, his lined face softening. "I will come." And so they set out together, a company of 15, Elisha walking at a calm pace with his staff tapping the dust, the young men chatting in bursts of laughter and energy as the road carried them toward the Jordan. The youngest among them, barely 18, thin and clumsy, with messy black hair and an oversized robe slipping off his shoulder, ran ahead, tripping now and then over roots, much to the amusement of the others. "I'll be the first to cut down a tree," he declared, puffing out his chest, though he quickly stumbled on a stone, sending peals of laughter through the group. But not all were filled with such bright optimism. One walked a little apart, arms folded across his faded blue robe, his dark eyes squinting as though everything around him deserved suspicion. He was 25, lean, sharp-faced, his thin mustache giving him a stern look. "We speak of cutting trees as though it is nothing," he muttered. "But axes break. Wood splinters. The Jordan is deep. Do not be so eager to boast." His words drew groans from the others, but Elisha, hearing, only smiled quietly, letting them learn for themselves. At last they reached the Jordan. The morning sun glittered on the river's surface, the tall trees rising like sentinels on either side. The prophets spread out, each choosing a tree, their axes ringing out as the wood splintered. The rhythm of chopping filled the air, joined by shouts, laughter, and the rustle of leaves as the first branches fell. The strong senior prophet worked steadily, his sleeves rolled high, muscles straining as his axe bit deep. The youngest worked clumsily, nearly striking his own foot, and drew laughter that eased the labor. Even the doubter, though he muttered at every swing, cut his wood with grim determination. But it was the young man with the borrowed axe whose hands trembled the most. Sweat beaded on his brow as he swung again and again, until suddenly, clang! The axe head flew from the handle, spinning into the air. His eyes widened in horror as it flashed once in the sun before plunging into the river with a loud plop. "No! No, no, no," he cried, falling to his knees at the water's edge, clutching the useless wooden handle in his hands. His voice broke with despair. "Alas, my master! It was borrowed." All work ceased at once. The other prophets rushed over, some gasping, others whispering. The youngest laughed nervously, then fell silent when he saw the man's anguish. The doubter shook his head, muttering, "Did I not say it? Axes break. And now, what will you do? The river does not give back what it takes." The young man wept openly, his chest heaving. "I cannot repay him. I promised I would return it. What shall I do now?" Elisha walked slowly to the water's edge, his cloak brushing the ground, his staff tapping softly against the stones. He looked down at the trembling young man, then out at the river, calm and unmoved as though nothing had happened. "Where fell it?" he asked, his voice quiet but commanding. The young man pointed with shaking hands to the very spot where the axe head had vanished beneath the rippling surface. Elisha nodded. He stooped, broke off a small branch from a nearby tree, and held it in his hand. The others leaned in, eyes wide, hearts pounding, for though they had seen their master work miracles before, none knew what he would do now. Without a word, Elisha cast the stick into the water. The branch struck the surface with a gentle splash, and then, before their eyes, the impossible happened. The water rippled, stirred, and from its depths the iron axe head rose slowly, glinting in the sunlight as though it weighed no more than a leaf. It floated upon the surface, bobbing lightly as though it belonged there. A collective gasp escaped the group. Some fell to their knees, others covered their mouths, and the doubter's eyes went wide in stunned disbelief. "Iron, floating," he whispered. "This cannot be." But Elisha only turned to the young man, his calm eyes steady. "Take it up." With trembling hands, the young man reached into the water and lifted the axe head, whole and gleaming, as though it had never been lost. Tears streamed down his face, but now they were tears of joy. He fell prostrate before Elisha. "My Lord, the Lord has heard me through you. Blessed be his name." The others raised their voices in praise, the forest echoing with their cries. Even the doubter, though he said no word, bowed his head low, his heart pierced with awe. Elisha lifted his staff and raised his voice above them all. "Know this, my sons, the Lord cares not only for kings and nations, but for the small troubles of the humble. Even the borrowed tool of the lowly is precious to him. Trust him in all things, for nothing is too small for his hand." The prophets carried the words deep into their hearts, and as they turned back to their work, they labored with joy, for they knew they were not alone. The sun climbed higher, and the sound of axes once again rang through the trees, but now every strike was accompanied by laughter, thanksgiving, and faith renewed. The Jordan, silent witness of the miracle, flowed on as though carrying the story downstream, to be told again and again that once, by the hand of Elisha, even iron had risen to float.
Imagine watching an iron axe sink into a river, and then seeing it rise and float on water. That's exactly what happened in the days of Elisha the prophet. By the Jordan River, a young man was cutting wood when his borrowed axe head flew off and sank deep below. Terrified, he shouted, "Master, it was borrowed." Elisha walked to the riverbank, broke off a stick, and threw it right where the axe had fallen. In that very moment, the heavy iron defied nature and floated on the water like a leaf. The young man reached out his hand and picked it up. A small miracle to some, but a mighty reminder, nothing is too lost for God to restore.